Hi, my name is Mac Ward, and today we'll be tinkering with soldering. Here are some components that we'll be using today. And here's what our workstation will look like. So you're going to need wire snippers and clippers, safety glasses, soldering wire, solder wick for when we make mistakes, and a soldering iron. A temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit is good for the heat source. So here's what everything looks like all together. So before we begin, we're going to go over some safety guidelines. First, always treat the soldering iron that it is on and hot. Second, make sure you have proper ventilation. And third, always wear proper safety glasses. First, we'll go over how to place the IC on the board. You want to make sure that the legs of the IC go all the way through the board, and you want to bend the legs back so that the IC doesn't fall out. You can do the same with the longer components. You can still place them to the board, and once you do, you can bend the legs so that the component doesn't fall out and we get it into position to solder. So once our solder is hot and we're ready to begin, the first thing we want to do is tin the tip of the soldering iron. You can also tin the tips of various components, like this battery connector. So Kyle's going to demonstrate our first soldering joint. Notice his hand placement with both the solder and with the iron. And here's a close-up of Kyle soldering together the IC to the board. And here's the same shot in slow motion. You should be able to see the solder flow onto the board. And here from a different angle, here are a few snapshots of what our solder should look like when we're done. After we're done soldering the components, we can snip away the extra wire. If you're using wires, you'll probably have to strip off the rubber to expose the metal. And after you've stripped your wires, you just want to make sure that they fit into the board. If you ever make a mistake and want to remove solder, you can use solder wick. Simply place the solder wick over the solder and then apply heat with the iron to the solder wick and the solder should come off. Thanks for watching. These are some of the basic techniques for soldering. For a more in-depth video on soldering an entire circuit, watch our tinkering module, Soldering 102.